Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining me in an episode that we're going to talk about making a response before God. So the question before us is, what do you do when you realize that God has done something for you? Well, the answer is you make response. So how do you do a response? A response is undeniably required. So functionally today's passage is about money, it's about stuff, but the stuff is just the currency of the response which comes from the heart. But it is this stuff that indicates what's going on inside the heart. So it's about returning a portion of what he has ultimately given to us. So more so, it's about the heart itself rather than the stuff. It's about this inclination of the heart. So we're going to look at two people's response. One is Moses and the other one is David. So I'm going to tell a kind of a big story to get to a single moment, and that is the response of David. So the story is in 1 Chronicles chapter 21. We're going to go to Deuteronomy in a moment. And it's about David, who has been disobedient to the Lord. He declares a census, which was God's clear command not for him to do. And eventually he comes to the error of his ways. About 9 months later, he confesses his sin. So as a punishment, God sends this avenging angel throughout Israel and kills 70,000 people. And the angel eventually gets to the last stop on this destruction trip, which is Jerusalem. And David sees the angel with this avenging sword in his hand. And David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, they fall on their faces. And David confesses before the Lord. He says, "Was it not I who gave the command to number this people? It is I who have sinned and done a great evil. But these sheep," he refers to his people as sheep, "what have they done?" And then he prays. He says, "Please let your hand, O Lord my God, be against me and against my father's house, but do not let the plague be upon your people." In other words, stop killing these people. And David built an altar there to the Lord and presented burnt offerings and peace offerings and called on the Lord. And the Lord answered him with fire from heaven upon the altar. Then the Lord commanded the angel, and he put his sword back into its sheath. Verse 28, at that time, this is the big verse, when David saw that the Lord had answered him, he sacrificed there. And I just love this moment. It's the moment that I wanted to get to, and that is David saw that the Lord did something, and he did nothing? No, he responded, he sacrificed, he makes a response. So what do you do when you realize that you have prayed or that something you have desired has gone to heaven, he's heard it, which is pretty amazing all by itself, and then he responds to it, that the Lord answered him. So what does David do when he saw? He sacrificed. David has a choice here. He and we have agency when we're exposed to the wonders of God. So an answer to prayer perhaps, or perhaps we see a creation marvel, or we witness God's activity in another person's life, or we experience the common graces that God gives to mankind, a new birth or life itself, or a heartbeat that works, or years on the planet. What do you do for what God has done for you? So similarly, a number of hundred years before, about 350 years before David, Moses makes a response and calls his people to make a response before the Lord. So this is Deuteronomy chapter 26. When you come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance, and have taken possession of it and live in it, so he's got all these blessings from the Lord, you shall take some of the first fruit of the ground. In other words, do something with it, which you harvest from your land and that the Lord your God is giving you, and you shall put it in a basket, and you shall go to the place that the Lord your God will choose. Get your feet involved, get your hands involved, to make his name dwell there. So, and then direct it towards the Lord. And you shall go to the priest who is in office at the time and say to him, I declare today to the Lord your God that I have come into the land that the Lord swore to our fathers to give to us. So he tells them to recognize this specifically. Then the priest shall take the basket from your hand, set it down before the altar of the Lord your God. And then verse 5 here, here's the big one, write this down. And you shall make response before the Lord your God. Make response before the Lord. That's what this whole passage and idea is about today. All right, so God is at work and we'd best notice it. Then we should make response. Make response with our mind, realize and understand what he's done. Make response with my mouth, declare it, confess it, and acknowledge it out loud. That is, let your mouth know that your mind understands something. Let your mouth know that your heart understands something. Then make response with my action. So he goes to the house of the Lord. He gets his basket, uses his hands and his legs, and gets the pastor involved. So let your hands and feet know that your heart understands something. Make response with my wallet. So take some of your first fruit, something, a sacrifice that costs you something. So let your wallet know that your heart understands something. The stuff is really just the currency of the response from the heart. So what is the response exactly to? Well, it's based foundationally on what the Lord has done. That's the start of this whole thing. And what do you do for what the Lord has done for you? Well, the answer here in Deuteronomy, as well as in First Chronicle, in Moses, as well as David, is you make response with your mind, your mouth, your hands, your feet, and yes, your wallet. Thanks for listening.